We've got another MS-DOS oldie here, EGATrek. Starting life as a space sim spread between academic mainframes, a version of the game eventually found its way onto IBM compatibles. The way I got my hands on it is when my dad had to take me and my older brother into work one day. If memory serves, he booted the computer into DOS, pointed out the directory and said something to the tune of "go nuts." But you know, more middle class than that. If it had any sense, I would have asked for a floppy to take it home, but apparently 8-year-old me wasn't as smart as I would have hoped. Because the next time I saw this game, it was about a decade later. Browsing on some abandonware site, I recognised the screenshot and downloaded it. All set to send myself back to 1992. And did I ever. I loaded it up and I was right back there at my dad's work. Big black chair, wide desk, beige monitor, the smell of despair and toner, it all flooded straight back. If there's a better reason to rediscover old games than to regain little pieces of the past like that, I do not want to hear it. Okay, digression over. EGAtRek puts you in charge of a starship by the name of USS Lexington. The Department of Space orders you to clear a local galaxy of invading Mongol ships. The name EGAtRek comes from the EGA graphics the game uses and something else, I guess. For those unaware, EGA is a 16 colour graphics mode for DOS. Okay, technically you pick those 16 colours from a 64 colour palette, but you probably don't care about that. I know there's a pattern developing here, but I swear I do play DOS games that don't name check their graphics modes in the title. In any case, that should let you know roughly how damn old this game is. By the way, I hope you like PC speaker noises. Now, the actual gameplay is a simple concept that gets surprisingly complicated. You spend the game moving from sector to sector, killing Mongols as you find them. The Mongols are allied with the Vandals and you can try attacking their ships too, but they take far too much energy to kill for something that never fights unless provoked. And you can't hit them with torpedoes because they're always cloaked. Which does raise the question of how the hell I know where they are at all. Aside from combat, you can find star bases to dock with, which will replenish your energy, reduce the time you spend fixing up your ship, and refill your supply of torpedoes to boot. Unless it's a research station. Those are pretty useless, but I guess it was just one more thing to check off the list. If you find a planet, you can go into orbit and see if there's anything useful down there, like Energium, guess what that does, or enemy supplies. The only other things of interest are stars, which pretty much just block your path, and black holes which either spit you out in a random location or kill you shitless. You'd best get used to this screen because you'll be staring at it the entire time you play. There's the local quadrant view in the top left which shows your ship as well. Laser temperature here, the status of your various ship systems here, alerts and messages over there, various info on the current star date, energy levels, shield levels, warp speed, number of Mongols remaining in the galaxy, and torpedo count. The remaining 3 windows are completely useless, aside from the chart of known galaxy that sits up there in the top right. Each move to a new quadrant you make reveals some info on the surrounding 8 quadrants. Typing in the help command does the best job of explaining those numbers, but if it's easier for you, just remember that if the text is red, there's Mongols about. You heard that commands thing right, by the way. The entire game is controlled by typing in commands with the keyboard. I'll explain those commands a bit later, but suffice to say it's a style of gameplay that's right up my alley. It's actually quite difficult to pin down exactly what I find fun about this game, given that I've probably made it sound like a 24th century spreadsheet simulator. If it was just nostalgia, that one day I spent playing it would not have been enough. So pondering what it was, I realised it's surprisingly deep given the concept and the technical limitations of the day. It's got strategy, being more or less turn-based, managing your energy levels and ship damage throws simulation in there too, a wee sci-fi universe brought in from whatever the hell that Trek thing was. There's a lot going on in that 276 kilobyte package. All that explained, it's probably easier I just demonstrate it for you. Don't know why I didn't do that first, to be honest. Alright, let's go through a typical fight. You've got Mongols, you've got yourself. You're equipped with lasers and torpedoes. If you choose to use lasers, you need to specify how much energy you fire at each target. Different ships take different amounts of punishment and you've only got so much energy to burn. Bear in mind you might need that energy to warp away if shit goes all nipple skyward. If you want to torpedo the opposition, you choose to fire between 1 and 3 torpedoes and then specify coordinates to fire them at. In either case, you'll do less damage the further you are away from your target. Your typical enemy, the Mongol battleship, looks like this. The supply ships and scouts are slightly weaker, whereas commanders are goddamn tanks. But not as much as the Mongol bases. Except bases have the common courtesy not to move. You want those bases dead quickly. Also, be careful where you fire those torpedoes. Hitting a star and turning it supernova is not great for your promotion prospects. Should the fight go badly, like when a long-range tractor beam drags you into a sector with 5 enemies when you were off to a star base to glue your damn ship back together, you have 2 last resorts. The first is self-destruct. You actually set a password for that at the start of the game, in case someone comes up to your computer while you're not there. As if they couldn't just park you beside a star and turn it supernova. The only real advantage to taking a quick selfie is the possibility that you'll take some ships with you in the process and increase your final score slightly. Although the Department of Space still tends to look down on that whole you lost your ship deal. The second, and much funnier last resort, is the Death Ray. The reason this is a last resort is because results are unpredictable, ranging from destroying every enemy on screen, to doing absolutely nothing, to turning the grid into a minefield of black holes, all the way down to plain destroying your ship. Except there's one more possibility somewhere in between all those. The Death Ray has a chance of turning half your men into insane mutants. This means the viewport periodically shows a noughts and crosses game or a smiley face, and half your commands will get ignored in some humorous fashion. Because whilst I think the most pressing issue is the Mongol base intent on turning my balls into salsa, my crew is more concerned that I know the course to don't worry, be happy. So let's say you emerged from the battle victorious, but your ship is starting to resemble a Space Hulk doing an impression of Swiss cheese. You can spend some star dates concentrating on repairs, even specifying which systems to focus on. If more than half your systems are damaged and you can hobble back to a starbase, I would do it. They'll finish repairs much quicker. And while those systems are buggered, you'll notice some adverse effects. For example, a damaged life support system will start a countdown until your crew suffocates. This isn't so bad on easy modes, but at the highest difficulty you'll only last 2 star dates. Repair it first if at all possible. Warp engines will reduce in top speed to nothing, whereas impulse engines just break at about half damage. Long range scanners will stop accurately reporting on surrounding sectors, if at all, and short range scanners will apparently disable your ability to look out of a fucking window. The most annoying system to get damaged is the computer, because that stores information on all the sectors you've visited, and that information disappears as the computer takes damage. It's worth noting down the positions of any star bases you come across, bearing in mind that only the ones labelled 1 or 3 will actually give you torpedoes. If you've never played this before, the help command is going to be the most useful one to you, since it contains a list of all the other commands and what they do. But I'll cover the basics anyway. Use move with 2 coordinates to move within your sector, and with 4 coordinates to move between sectors. Right, there's something you absolutely need to know about this game. Your friendly neighbourhood Cartesian coordinates are backwards here. It's vertical first, horizontal second. So the top right is 1-8 instead of 8-1. There's no real trick to learning this one, you'll just have to get used to it. And by that I mean after trying to stop a starbase getting destroyed only to find you've moved to the wrong fucking corner of the galaxy for the 400th time. Don't worry. You use impulse engines to move within a sector and warp engines to move between them. Impulse has 1 speed, but you can set the warp to between 1 and 10. Higher warp speeds are faster, but they drain your energy far quicker, which makes things difficult when you get alerts telling you a starbase is under attack and you need to get there on time whilst retaining enough energy to vape all the attackers. If you're worried about not making these, bear in mind that losing a starbase robs you of a potential resupply spot, but missing planet evacuations merely subtracts from your final score. If you even care about that sort of thing, which you probably don't, because it's not 1985 anymore. The laser command brings up this window, which asks you how much you want to unload on the local bad chaps. Try 500 at first, then mess around with it, see what your various ship types can handle. Torp brings up this window, asking you how many torpedoes you want to fire and then what coordinates to fire them at. Dock, well, docks you with a starbase. Orbit puts you into orbit around a planet. Both require being adjacent to the object in question, and land lets you send a party down to the planet's surface, if you've remembered to lower your shields first. That command's easy to remember though, just press the down arrow key. And for Krishna's sake, remember to put your shields back up afterwards. For those "oh dear god my cock" situations, Fix will display your various subsystems and let you pick one of them to concentrate repairs on, or all of them at once, and for how many star days. And for those utterly foobar situations, Self will activate self-destruct, if you remember your password, and Ray will activate your death ray. Best of luck with those. So, Mr. Iki, I hear you say, how am I meant to remember all these different commands and how they work? Well, I would reply, number 1, stop transmitting questions directly into my mind. It's freaky as hell and frankly, more than a little bit rude. Although you were considerate enough to address me as Mr, I'll give you that. Second, you only actually need to remember the first letter of the command. Also, commands such as warp or move let you put in the numbers along with the command. You don't have to wait for that window to come up, and that pretty much halves the time you have to take to input those commands. If you're utterly gay for keyboards like I am, this will make you the happiest of all the bunnies, because the speed at which you'll be able to play this game is insane. What an indicator of just how quick? On the lowest difficulty, I can complete a game in 2 minutes. Yeah, 120 seconds. I don't know how many actions per second that comes to, but I bet if I was in one of those pro StarCraft tournaments, I could... you know what? Never mind. That looks really fucking difficult. Point is that not only can you play this entirely with a keyboard, but be blisteringly fast while doing so, and that makes me happy in the pants. So, is it worth a shot? I think so. You have to be comfortable with learning some commands, managing your energy and damage levels, and basically memorising how much punishment certain enemies will take. It gives you a lot of control over what you do, and you have to be okay with the lack of hand-holding, or even mouse support. It looks intimidating, but it's probably less complex than your average game of Civ 2. I'm not even sure I can sell this to people who didn't grow up with DOS, but damned if I won't try. I haven't seen a game that gives you such a simple mission in such a large game world. It's not a sandbox by any means. You can kill Mongols, dock with the star bases, and land on planets. That's pretty much it. But it's up to you how and when you do it. You can pick your fights, search all the sectors for planets and star bases, try and finish the game when your death ray is already sent to have your crew Tom Cruise crazy. You get a lot of freedom, and with that freedom comes the potential for a lot of fun. Once you actually figure out how to play it.